It's late. We're going to start over. It's live, so you're going to hear this start over. Chris Jenkins, credentialed member of the media covering the Carolina Panthers for Charlotte Vibe, live in East Rutherford, New Jersey. Final score in this game, Carolina Panthers 19, a few more points than they had last week. New York Giants 21. Go by man of the people because I enjoy working for the fans of the Carolina Panthers. Enjoy all the new subscribers. Welcome. And the returning subscribers, welcome to you as well. I'm about to bring on my co-host, Andre Casseday, who's in some cozy confines. How you doing, Mr. Casseday?
I'm doing all right. I'm feeling encouraged about what just took place. If you would have asked me that question maybe 2 hours ago, I would feel a little more irked, if you will.
Yeah?
But we're here, and I'm feeling a little confident, a little bit better about what's taking place here.
Hey, that's good. I'm just glad to be here. Show's live a little bit later than we like to. You know, normally we're trying to go live, I don't know, within about 20 minutes after the game ends. Andre didn't tell me the proper directions to get down to this field. He sent security after me and the whole nine, and it just took a while to get online. But you know what? I said, I cannot be the man of the people if I'm going to let this stuff stop me from going online. I don't care if it's midnight. They're going to keep the lights on until I'm done the show, okay? They're sending a bill to New York City.
And that's why you're the man of the people, man. They keep the lights on just for you until you get your show going, and we're going right here.
And we're going.
We're going to be on.
All right.
We're going to be on for as long as we need to be to speak our minds about whatever it is we need to cover here.
And you know what? We're on live still for the reason of interacting with the fans out there. So if you're watching, you're up late, maybe you're happy, maybe you're a little ticked off, there's a link that's in the description for you to join us live, which I hope that you'll do. We'll probably get to that in about 15, maybe 20 minutes. But Andre is also going to pin that link in the comments so that you can join us live as well. Whether you're on your phone, the computer, whatever it may be, join us live. We're here to talk to you, answer some questions for you, get you up to date about this Carolina Panthers team. So the format for tonight, we're going to go over some great photos that our photographer Patrick Snyder has gotten for us tonight. Again, if you want to see lots more photographs, go over to our Instagram account or our Twitter account where we will post lots of photos. I don't think there's anything that he missed tonight. You know, it's got the scores, you got the sack that wasn't a sack, and everything else that happened tonight. We got great photographs of that. So in no particular order, let me first give a shout out to one of our most loyal people, Michael.
Oh, is he back?
Michael's hanging out with us. I appreciate it,
Jeez.
Michael.
Isn't it past your bedtime, Michael?
We like loyalty around here.
We love you tuning in here at 11:11 here on the East Coast.
And then Christopher, I want to say Holyfield?
Yeah.
That's right.
Holyfield.
He said, was it better than the first preseason game? Andre, was it better?
Yes. Simple answer is yes.
It was much better. It was much better. So let's go ahead and show you if I can click on this properly because I've had every problem in the world. Okay, it's not on that screen. So we may laugh through a few of these here, but let's see if I can do this one here.
Ooh, the
boom.
Moment of truth.
There we go.
Ooh.
Let's see a little bit of Bryce Young there avoiding some contact from Mr. Smith, number 72. Good, nice little photo there. Up close and personal. You know who that is?
Is that the Dexter Lawrence?
I don't know who that is.
No,
that's Carolina. That's Carolina.
This is Brian Burns.
Brian Burns? Yeah, we're gonna go with Brian Burns. Little piece in my ear said Brian Burns. That's what I'm gonna go with. And then we got Shi Smith, who looked pretty good. We're gonna go over the stats tonight. He only dropped one pass, and here he is bringing in a catch from, I'm sure, Matt Corral. So,
hey, he shouldn't be dropping any of them, Chris. Don't be giving him the benefit of the doubt.
I like that. I like that. You're right. He shouldn't.
That's your guy right there.
If he's in the pros, getting paid, he shouldn't be dropping anything. And who do we have here? None other than Raheem Blackshear with the low top Nikes, white on white, with the score.
The first touchdown of the Panthers preseason.
First touchdown in Frank Reich history. Let me see if I can put myself on
the Frank Reich era.
Frank Wright era. You're right. I said history, but the era. And this, I don't know if this is the picture of the night right here. Is this a little sidearm action by Bryce with the MetLife Stadium in the background?
A lot of people on Twitter were really vibing with that picture, with the MetLife Stadium in the backdrop and him in the foreground. A lot of people were, and I think this might be the most talked about picture of the night from what we've been posting on Twitter. Somebody credited the picture and had it on their Twitter and talked about how he kind of looks like Drew Brees in some of these pictures and how he's been able to maneuver in the pocket and, really just be him, in essence of him trying to be quarterback for this team.
You seen all these other pictures coming up here too?
Don't remind me of that Tyler or that touchdown that the Giants had on their first possession. I just saw that picture pop up.
Yeah,
that one.
We got a few more here that we're going to show you. Who's that? Is that Cam? No, that's
boy.
Bryce Young scrambling a little bit. What he did early on he didn't get a first down, but he did get some yardage. But we're going to get into that here momentarily. We got one more great photograph that we're going to show you. And by the way, let me add, all these pictures are original pictures from Charlotte Vibes owns Patrick Snyder. We did not get these from anywhere else, and you will see these anywhere
Patrick
else.
Snyder, the Patrick Snyder. We got to put the in front of the name. The Patrick Snyder.
Patrick Snyder. You're correct. Let me see if I can go backwards here and get all these back to where you can see Andre and myself. So again, on Twitter and mostly on Instagram is where you'll see those photographs. Plenty more photographs of tonight's action, as unfortunately the Carolina Panthers fall 21-19 against the New York Jets, but a much better performance than previous. So we're going to go over some stats, get you up to date on what this game looked like from a stat standpoint. And in no particular order, we're going to talk about these team stats first. And it's some balance here, which is what you'll get from a game where you only lose by 2 points, right? Things that I want to point out here: 15 first downs to the Giants 17, many more than we had last week. Total net yards, 235. We didn't even crack 200 last week. So an improvement there. 56 total plays. And look at this, our yards per pass, still a little lower than I would like it to be at 4.8. But guess what we did? Guess what we did do? We got over 100 yards rushing. So that's a good thing right there. Not a bad thing. So some few team stats. Now we're going to go into these individual stats. That's on the defensive side. I don't want to do the defense. I want to do the quarterbacks first. Let me see if I can get to that. Boom. Quarterbacks. So Matt Corral, 9 of 13, 71 yards, quarterback rating of 82.5. He was sacked one time. Andre, I'll take this first one from you as far as Matt Corral and how he did. So, in my opinion, Matt Corral was not – he's still okay. Matt Corral is okay. I know I'll go back to week one discussion, and before we even got into the preseason games, the possibility of having Matt Corral traded, I say that's pretty much down to zero now after these two games, because he has not looked impressive. He's looked just like an average backup quarterback that's just stuffed down on the roster, that knows the plays and is just there as a Band-Aid. His completion percentage wasn't bad, but I mean, Bryce and Matt Corral, neither one of these guys got the ball down the field too much today. And, Matt's just a work in progress at this point. Jake Luton ended up being 2 for 7, but what I did like, well, you can't see it here, but he was getting the ball down the field on his first series. And in the press box we were talking about, is there about to be a backup quarterback controversy? Jake Luton comes in here lighting it up. I think he was 2 for 3 perhaps on that first drive, looking pretty good. And then that second drive, I don't know if he had any completions. I don't think he did. But
no, he didn't.
He did not. Almost had more completions to the opposite team than he did to our own team. So no quarterback controversy there. The pecking order is clearly Bryce Young, Andy Dalton, which is not pictured, if you will, Matt Corral, and then Jake Luton. See a few more comments that are starting to come in. Keep them coming. We're going to go through these stats. You guys are still invited to click on that link that's in the description or in the comments to join the show from your phone or computer, and let us know your comments or your questions. We're here for you. All right, let's continue on. So that's the passing. Let's go to the rushing, which I feel like our rushing attack was pretty good. Raheem Blackshear and Chuba Hubbard both at about 8 carries apiece. I said about, but they clearly had 8 carries apiece. Almost identical. Raheem with the TD. Both had a long of about 7-8 yards. But even once you get into Spencer Brown here, he averaged just under 3 yards per carry. But last week he did pretty good. He got the most carries with 10. So, and again, we went over 100 yards thanks to our quarterbacks, Matt Corral and Bryce Young, giving us 14 yards there. But we did get over 100 yards rushing, and we got closer to, guys getting about at 4 yards per attempt there from the running back. So continue to move on past the rushing, and we'll go to – we don't want the defense
receiving.
Yet. I want to get the receiving. Where's my receiving stat at? Give me a second. There we go.
Oh, is that your guy at the top of the list?
Why do you keep saying my guy? I like all these guys. I've interviewed Shy. I've interviewed Mingo. I've interviewed, that's it. Terrace Marshall.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yep.
Yeah. You can't just say Shy Smith. I like them all.
But to his defense, he did have a relatively good game today, and he kind of needed to. And he needed to make a name for himself as well because, when you look at the 2 receivers that were out today, Terrace Marshall and Derek Wright, there needed to be that guy that would step up in their absence. And one of those guys that comes to mind immediately would be Shi Smith. And while he did have a drop today, I think he was able to put that behind him and make some key catches, especially in that drive that Matt Corral had in the second half to lead him down the field. That connection that they had between the two of them was rather apparent. And, he was a pretty serviceable member of the offense today. And he was their top performer with 4 catches, 59 yards, and had a long of 27 yards. So he did what he needed to do to keep himself in the running for having a roster spot on this team, and got to give him credit where credit's due.
Give him credit where credit's due. Yeah, Derek Wright, Terrace Marshall, Demir Bird, 3 guys that you would certainly think would be ahead of, well, not 3 because I don't know what Derek Wright, but 2 guys certainly that you thought would have been ahead of Shi Smith. But he used the opportunity, as Andre said there. Let's go ahead and bring up these stats so we can go over them properly. So Shi Smith led all receivers. Oh man, he almost had twice as many yards as any of the other guys. 60. I can't even talk. 59 yards total that he had. Had the longest, 27 yards. 4 out of 5. He was able to bring that in. And everybody else, once you look at this, I'm just going to talk over this graphic for a second. Frank Wright talked about this team not having a true number 1 and kind of said, you don't have to have a number 1. I don't know about that. I still feel like I'd love to have a number 1, a guy that you knew that you can throw the ball to, whether he was the first read on that route or not. I think that's just phenomenal to have a guy like we don't have. But certainly I'm all for making the most out of what we have and using that mantra of, hey, depending on the play, anybody can be a number 1. And we got a lot of guys that do things a little bit special independently of each other. So anyway, you'll see nobody else except Javon Williams had 2 catches. His 2 catches were only for 8 yards, 4-yard average. But DJ Chark, Josh Van, etc. And we see your comments coming. I'm almost done with the stats. We're going to get into these comments that are out there. But I'm also going to invite you to what? Click on the link. Join us on the show. We're always going to go live, to have your interaction. So we'd like to hear it if you got it. And we got one more we're going to go over. That's the defensive side. Raekwon Williams had a nice game, getting 2 quarterback hits, including a sack. 4 totals tackles. Deion Jones as well, getting in there with a quarterback hit. Taylor Starworth having 2 tackles for a loss. Von Bell getting in there with some action as well, getting a pass deflection. So not a bad outing from the defense as well. So let me quickly give you my thoughts on the game, or not my thoughts. I'm going to talk about one thing that everybody's been talking about, which is it's just preseason. So I saw Jonathan Stewart early on in the game say, hey guys, remember it's preseason. And I'm like, I don't know, man. So I thought about it for a bit, right? Players are saying it's just preseason. Some other people are saying it's just preseason. Some people say, well, it's preseason for the other teams too, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah. And again, this thought process that I'm sharing with you guys was happening before we went through, I don't know, 16 or however many unanswered points that we went to have the game as close as it was. So here's my balance of the it's just preseason talk, okay? In the preseason, there's a big difference. There's no game planning. There's none at all that's done between these coaches to try to beat the other coach with game planning, knowing what they're going to do and trying to counter that. And Coach Frank Wright talked about things being vanilla, meaning all the options, check downs, changes that could happen. You're not going to see those in the preseason. But I also hear the argument from the person on Twitter that said, well, it's preseason for the other team too, so why are we looking so bad? So in conclusion, it's preseason means, yes, for the most part, these coaches are not focused on the score. They're just focused on player evaluation, putting Joe Blow in, telling Joe Blow to do an assignment, and see how he does. Now, if you look back at it, even in this game before it got closer, it actually got closer with the backups, which is not as good,
Yep.
right? You actually want the game to be closer with your starters, not during the evaluation period that we all kind of said, well, this sucks and it's boring to watch. So during that period where we had the starters, the Giants still were winning. I think the score would have been 7-3 through the first 2 series of the game. So the big difference, and I read this playlist, I say playlist, but players who played list before the game. On our defensive side, we were missing a lot of guys, right? I could just say from Brian Burns, our guy that's soon to be, our franchise defensive guy, he wasn't playing. And then Derek Brown, he wasn't playing. And then the guy who's going to be a rotational player but still see him as a big balance to Brian Burns, Justin Houston, he didn't play. That's a lot of firepower to help the defense shut down the offense and maybe help with some situations to flip the field, give a J.C. Horn, Dante Jackson a chance to get underneath the ball because the quarterback's trying to rush, and get you some good field position for Bryce Young. Now, on the Bryce Young side, he did much better. No, I wouldn't say he did much better. He did the same as last week, which is all I wanted because he did so phenomenal last week. And when I say phenomenal, no, he wasn't lights out. No, he wasn't throwing bombs, but he was a rookie in his first ever action in the NFL, playing some pretty solid ball, going through his reads, holding his mechanics, and looking poised. That's really all you want in week 1. You'd love for fireworks, but that's what you want. Offensive line did much better, giving him some time to, I won't say giving him some time to throw as much as they didn't allow him to be just killed out there. Were there mistakes? Yeah.
Right.
Were there less mistakes than last week versus the Jets? Absolutely. So I'm going to go through the comments here, but I'm going to let my man Andre Casseday, because I took over the first part of the show. I'm going to let Andre lead us through these comments here. Andre, I'm going to post them, and you can just cut me off and comment on it once you see the comment. But he'll lead us through these post games. I'm even going to give you a little solo cam action here because I got to do a few things while I'm over here. But again, cut me off whenever they come up for you if you have a chance to.
So here we go with Christopher Holyfield with a pretty good question. What did you think about the defense tonight? I think in the first half there were some moments where you looked at the defense and you're like, that's what we're putting out there right now? I mean, that one pass play that Tyrod Taylor had to, I forgot the receiver's name off the top of my head, but I know it was the play that the safety Rowe gave up on that deep throw for a touchdown there. And you're wondering, like, what the heck is he looking at? Why is he not making a play on the ball? He was like at least 10 yards away from the receiver in the end zone. So there were definitely some moments in the first half where, you're like, what's going on here? There weren't, really, any marked improvements from the week prior. Giving up 21 points and a half is never a good situation to have and gameplay. But when you look at the second half and how they were able to tighten it up, a lot of rotational players were in there. A lot of these evaluation players were in there at this point of the game. They were able to tighten it up and make this game a little bit more competitive. And so I feel like, it was definitely a tale of two halves in reference to how the defense played. But you also got to think about it from the perspective of like, hey, you're missing like three of your top defensive linemen in your front seven. That's going to play an impact in terms of strategy and how you play effectively some good defense. So, it was a little bit of a mixed bag. But again, when you talk about the preseason, it's about stepping stones and how do you get from one stone to the next. So definitely a work in progress there. We'll move it over to Fi Beta Hatiz. Is that how you
Well,
pronounce
actually,
that?
Andre, you know what I let you do, and it's my fault. I didn't let you talk
What's
about.
up?
I didn't let you talk about the press conference.
Oh yeah, that's kind of my fault too.
Yeah,
But
I just threw it to you for the comments. I forgot to let you talk about the press conference. So go ahead, tell us about
so
the
yeah,
press
let's go
conference.
ahead and talk about some of the things that were covered with Frank Reich and Bryce Young. We'll start with Reich, and there were a couple of injuries that he talked about right off the bat. So Dante Jackson currently is dealing with an ankle injury. Deontay Brown dealing with a hamstring injury, and Chuba Hubbard dealing with an ankle injury. So these injuries are going to be monitored over the next couple of days, and we'll be keeping an eye on the severity. He didn't make it seem like it was anything too significant, but it's something that we'll be watching over the next short while. In terms of how
Oh,
everything went,
hold on. Who had an injury? Did you say Dante Jackson?
Dante Jackson, he had an ankle injury.
Did he pull him out the game, or that somebody just observed that happened? I don't remember seeing it.
I don't remember the injury happening on the field. I guess it's something that uh, was nagging around, I guess. But that was something that he led off with right off the bat. The injury, I don't think, took place on the field. I guess it's just one of those things that he's just monitoring and maintaining and making sure that it doesn't get any worse than what it is right now
Come on,
in
Dante.
that regard. So,
Say
yeah,
them
and we
all one
need
more
him to
time,
be
Dante. Who else did
Dante
you have?
Jackson.
Who
We
else?
need you to say, Deontay Brown with the hamstring, and then Chuba
Okay.
Hubbard with a ankle injury as well. So a lot of back injuries, a lot of ankle injuries too, from what I've been noticing.
All right.
Just keeping tabs on everything there.
All right.
But just from the overall perspective with how Coach Reich saw today's game, there were some improvements. There were some things that obviously got to go back, run through the tape, and try to correct during practice here as they get ready for next week's game against Detroit. He did like the play calling. They were able to do more this week compared to last week. There were things that they did which worked um, in their favor. Thomas Brown took over the play calling in the second half, and I think that really kind of just opened up the game. You notice there was a pretty distinct pace difference when he took over in the second half and how freely the offense played. In
Can
regards
I?
to Bryce
Can I?
Young,
Very
yeah,
quick.
go
I'm
ahead.
not going to cut you off because I told you this is your segment here. Um, they did go so fast. Not only was it me, but several people in the media were like, "Whoa, hold on! They ran another play." It wouldn't really.
Right.
They started playing with a really, really quick pace.
Yeah, it was a very distinct difference in how they got their plays out from the first half compared to the second half. In regards to Bryce Young, he felt like he looked sharp, he looked comfortable in the pocket, and he looked poised in the pocket as well. So that kind of confirmed stuff that we already saw from last week to this week. So again, noticing those trends, those behavioral things that you start to pick up on over the course of the preseason. The one thing that they do need to address is the penalties. They had way too many penalties throughout the course of the game, really on both sides of the ball, for Carolina and for New York. Offensive line play did improve, but there still needs.
It'll be quick, I promise. He's going to beat me up later on, folks, about these interruptions. But about those penalties, it would have been the second possession that we had that went into the second quarter. That possession had 6 total penalties. It was a lot. 3 by the Giants and 3 by the Carolina Panthers. It was like an awful last series for the starters on both sides of the ball.
I had the number pulled up for both teams.
Total penalties?
So for Carolina, they had 8 penalties for 64 yards. And then for the Giants, they had 10 penalties for 82 yards. So combined, 18 penalties between both teams. So definitely something, on both sides, they're going to have to get cleaned up, I would say, before they get ready for the regular season. And finally, of note, talking about the offensive line, obviously it's a work in progress. They did a better job, I feel like, blocking today than they did last week. They gave Bryce Young some wiggle room, which is something that he will use to his advantage as somebody who is as mobile as he is, being able to create plays and extend plays with his legs. But I think ultimately, with Akim Ekwonu, obviously, that one play on that second down, on the second drive that they had, there was definitely a lapse there, just a miscommunication in that regard. And speaking of miscommunications, we'll talk about it with Bryce Young and what he had to say in his presser too. The miscommunication he had between him and Jonathan Mingo on that third down play on the first drive. It was just one of those things where, like, the receiver thought that Bryce Young was still in the pocket, and when he was making that throw, as he shifted to his left because he was trying to get away from the pressure, there was a little bit of a delay mentally where you're like, oh wait, he's over here now, so you're trying to accommodate for where the ball is going to go, that sort of thing. It may look different, and even Bryce said it during the presser that it may look different on tape, but that was just from their perspective what they saw in that regard. I know Chris and I were talking about it and texting back and forth. I was like, dude, he stopped on his route. He was about to get hit. And then Chris was like, well, the dude already got hit before he even got the ball, so there was no reason for him to stop. But, I mean, that play is going to get hyper-analyzed, I feel like, just because, it's preseason. People need stuff to talk about. But you're going to see that because, there's going to be times where there are going to be some miscommunications, and we've seen it over the course of the past 2 weeks. They're working out the kinks. They're working out and ironing out these things, and it will get better with time. And that's what the preseason is for.
Hey, shouts out to Jonathan Mingo. If you watched the pregame, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you didn't, go back and, I'll just tell you, right? Jonathan Mingo told me during my one-on-one interview that he doesn't think that the first defender should bring him down. He runs hard after he catches the ball. So I was, we're not allowed to cheer in the press box, but when he made another play where he caught the ball, bounced off of a guy, turned and went upfield.
Yep.
So there you go. That's what he told me he had in him. So glad to see that from Jonathan Mingo.
Kind of looked like DJ Moore on that catch. DJ Moore kind of had that similar mentality where it's like, hey, this first dude's not bringing me to the ground. I'm going to run through him and try to see what kind of yardage I can gain after the catch. So you can kind of see that kind of mentality in Jonathan Mingo's game as well.
Huh? What? Oh, in my ear, they're telling me that they have the video queued up and they're going to play it for you. Here we go.
Oh, here we go.
The wide receiver position and with your skill set, what do you think is one of your strongest skills going to help you make an impact on this team this year?
Well, I feel like I'm a fast, physical guy. I feel like I can run through people, and I feel like I can beat them through my quickness and speed. And I feel like once I get the ball, nobody's gonna break me down. I feel like my run after the catch really is very good, but I feel like it's underrated. I didn't really get to show it that much in college like I should have. But once I get
That's enough. There you go. He told
I like
me.
that smooth transition there.
Hey, we do what we can late night
That was
to
pretty
entertain
clean
the
right
people.
there, Chris.
I'll try it again maybe before we get off the broadcast, see what else we have. Now that I cut you off, you don't remember where you were, do you?
I think that's pretty much all I had to say. I'm just looking through my notes right now.
Well, look, as you go through your notes, I'm going to give you something to talk about here. Bubble T District. What a name, man. Bubble T District said we should have paid Gilmore. What do you think?
I think we're 2 years past that conversation.
But if we had to pay him,
yeah.
he'd still be here.
He would still be here. Don't get me wrong, and I would love to have him here. I mean, it would be an addition to have him here. But I think we're well past that point now. That was a decision that they should have made last year during free agency. And I think you live with that decision, and you just move on.
Can we say we should not have rescinded the franchise tag on Josh Norman?
Man, that's a conversation for another day. But, I think we're about 6 or 7 years too late on that conversation. Get back to that point, though, I do feel like in that class, we should have kept Hassan Reddick. That's probably the bigger name that I feel like I would have been more adamant about keeping. Him or Gilmore, I would have said Hassan Reddick.
All right. Well, look, we're going to speed it up a little bit because they cut off some lights. They didn't cut them all off. So I'm going to take that as like the 10-minute warning for being down here on the field. We're going to go through these comments that you guys have here first and foremost. And then with the remaining time that we have, Andre and I will continue to keep you up to date. We're also going to get back, not during the preseason, but during the regular season. We do our day after game thoughts where we have another full hour dedicated to talking to you guys about the game. Going to start that after the home opener. Well, I shouldn't say the home opener. After the season opener. With the Atlanta Falcons, the Monday morning or day after game shows will start. But let's go ahead and get back to these comments here. Bubble T District, again with another comment. Scott Fitterer needs to be fired. He can't draft after round 1. So that would be DJ Mingo. That would be, wow, I just made up a name. Jonathan Mingo, DJ Johnson, Jamie Robinson, and Chandler Zavala. Which, by the way, Chandler Zavala did start at right guard tonight. I think he did pretty respectable in his first game as a pro after spending most of training camp sitting on the sidelines watching. But what do you think about that comment?
I feel like there's some personal animosity there with that. I'm just looking at these past drafts that Scott Fitterer has been a part of. So you're telling me that Terrace Marshall wasn't a good pick? Telling me Brady Christensen wasn't a good pick? Tommy Tremble, the jury is still out on him. Chuba Hubbard, he's been a serviceable member of the team. Keith Taylor, he's been something for this team. I can't really say what that something is, but he's been a part of the team. Deontay Brown, who's still a contributing member of the Panthers offensive line. So you can't just say that he can't draft after round 1. I mean, there's some talent there that's still on this team. You may disagree with some of those players and their, where they're at right now in terms of relevancy and, their role on the team. But you can't just say he can't draft after round 1 because then you would be like, hey, that draft class is top heavy. I feel like these past couple of draft classes have been pretty balanced in terms of talent and how they've been able to incorporate that talent into the team, which I feel like he's done a fair job in doing.
All right, David Chisholm, I'm disappointed in the first string D for the lack of effort. So I'm going to bully you and take this one, and we'll continue to move forward.
Yeah, go for it.
And I'm not looking at my stats, but I feel pretty good when I say this. the first 3 drives that the Giants scored, out of the first 3 drives, they scored on 2 drives. One of the drives was about basically 5. They were quick. They were like
under
about
5 minutes.
5 minutes. I know one was definitely under 5 minutes. I think the other might have been maybe under 4 minutes. But it was like they went 65 plus yards to do so. And yeah, I would agree with you. That effort by the defense early on, and man, this breeze up in New York is getting kind of cool. But I agree with you. David. That the first string defense played a little lackadaisical. They were not too sharp on it tonight. Good comment. Appreciate you chiming in there, David. Donald Duck, but no, they wanted money for Deshaun. Okay. Chance Hines, I know it's preseason, but man, is this 3-4 going to work? Andre?
I think they are in an adjustment period right now. So you're obviously going to be seeing some players who are not accustomed to being in a 3-4, getting used to their new roles and, trying to incorporate like defensive ends moving over to a linebacker spot. Like you're going to be seeing Brian Burns fit that mold more. And, the purpose of a 3-4 is to have versatility, right? So like I think of guys like Jeremy Chin. He's probably one of the more versatile players that we have on this roster. Like the dude can play linebacker, he's a safety, he can be a nickel corner. And there go the lights.
Did you see that?
They're flickering around back there.
Somebody got their binoculars and saw him on the field.
I'm gonna try to make my answer quick. So in the short term, it's gonna look a little rough, but I do feel like as things start to become a little more fluid and they start to get used to the scheme changes and everything, it'll work out in their benefit. But for right now, it's an adjustment period.
Yeah, and Justin Houston said this, and I kind of feel like Brian Burns may feel the same. When you're playing in a 3-4, it allows those guys on the edge more times than not to be standing up. And when they're standing up, they got a better view of what's going on and to react and, make their decisions. But it does put them in different perspectives that now they can't just have their ears pinned back and go rush. They have dual responsibility. So, yeah, a little bit of adjustment, but I wouldn't say it's not going to work yet because we haven't even seen the main guys out there to play it, which is Brian Burns. He's the biggest guy of them all. Appreciate the question, Chance Hines. And I don't know, guys, maybe I will go till they cut the lights off and some security guy comes over here. I don't know. As long as somebody makes sure I get to my car safely. Maybe the same dude. Do we blame, David Chisholm says, do we blame some of this on coaching? How could you not? They're the ones who get these guys ready to play. Andre, I'll let you take it.
Yeah, you do have to feel like that plays a part in it. A lot of it comes down to, the game plan and, what they see themselves doing. Obviously, preseason, you're not trying to show your full capability, and you shouldn't. I mean, we're at the very beginning stages of the season. If you are a football team that's playing your best football at this juncture in the year, I'd be very concerned about the trajectory of the team and where you see the team going. So obviously, a lot of what they're doing right now is very vanilla, like Coach Reich said, very base, not too complex. So it really puts a lot of emphasis on the playmakers. Can this individual go out and make a play? Because we all know what they're doing, in terms of the scheme. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Can that player go out and make the plays that are necessary to be able to go out and separate from one thing from the next? So, yeah, coaching's involved with it, but at the same time, this is an evaluation period, like you said, Chris, and it comes down to players wanting to make a roster and competing for these roster spots.
All right. Phi Beta hitters. Will we see Bryce the next preseason game?
We will. And probably if I had to guess, probably for a half.
You're going to give us a half?
Game. That's my humble estimation. But yeah, the third preseason game, that is your dress rehearsal game. This is your last opportunity to show what you have as a team before you get ready for the regular season. So I do feel like, and Coach Reich did touch on this, the question was brought up about certain guys who haven't played yet in the preseason. Are they going to play in the third preseason game? And he said, hey, if we feel like we need to accomplish something that we haven't really accomplished yet, then we're going to have those guys in there. So guys like Brian Burns, Justin Houston, people who haven't been in, Derek Brown, another guy on the defensive side of things. So again, it's going to be a feel thing, but you're going to see a lot of those first team guys playing for at least a half. And that's typically how a lot of these teams go about handling that third preseason game.
So Frank Reich is in his first year as a coach for the Carolina Panthers. So I can't say this like I know the guy, which I wish I did so I could have a better feel to answer that question. Like when he says we're going to, you said something like depend on if it's necessary or not?
Depends on if they want to try to accomplish something that they haven't done yet.
Like when? Like could that be it? I don't like that reply. Like depend on.
I feel like that's some media speak, right? Some coach speak, right there.
That is, and why are we hiding it? I mean, maybe just say. I'd rather hear him say that he hadn't talked with his defensive coordinators yet to kind of see what they should do, or I'd like to talk with the players. But I mean, yeah, I could see. We're not playing some guys because they're veterans and they're good. So Brian Burns, we don't need to see any more tape on him. I could see an answer like that. Let him continue to have some rest. Even could see like we haven't got that new contract out there yet. Something like that. But that answer, I don't like it. But, you're just reporting. That's fine. I'm just giving my reaction to your reporting.
Just reporting the facts.
Let me go ahead and move us on here. Did Zavala look good to you also? So I can't say that name. It looks like let's see. I'm trying to do my English here because I know pneumonia starts off with PN. So I can't. But sir, to address your question, does Zavala look good? He looked fine. He didn't look great. He didn't look bad. But to me, considering that he's a rookie, he didn't get in pads for the first time until a few days ago this week. To come out here and play respectable, he didn't let up any sacks. I don't believe. I had my binoculars on him for quite a while, and I saw some hesitancy in him as far as blocking schemes and where he was going with this block sometimes. But first game, so it's
right.
He still looked pretty solid to me. Thanks for the question, sir.
He did have a holding call. But, I mean, otherwise than that,
he did have a holding call. You're right.
He was unnoticeable, but in a good way. And that's what you want it to be as an offensive lineman. You don't want your name to be called, because if it's called, it's for all the wrong reasons if you're an offensive lineman.
Yeah. Donald Duck's out here quacking, man. Tepper's getting robbed first by college tier coaches and now a staff with 11 to 13 rings. So to that point, I will go back to say that preseason is a heavy evaluation period. And I know as a fan, you don't go to think about the intricate parts of the assignment of preseason and what these coaches are trying to do. And I could actually get lost in it myself, like, hey, why do we look so terrible? But it was an improvement in the team this week. And they haven't started their game plan and all that jazz yet. But with that third preseason game, as Andre talked about coming up, typically being your dress rehearsal, I would like to see a little bit more game planning and what may be like the untraditional NFL effort in a preseason game by this group. Because, again, I want to see them have some practice before the bullets are flying, right? I don't want their first okay, kumbaya moment to happen in week 1 in Atlanta. I mean, it could work, but I would like to see just a little bit of it. But I don't. So Donald Duck, about your comment yet, basically these guys aren't showing. They're not showing all their abilities yet. The coaching staff, they're not showing all their tricks. They're not showing everything that they know to make adjustments, plug a guy in, pull a guy out, all the strategic stuff that makes football the chess match that it is. They're not playing chess right now. They're basically playing, I don't even know if I want to say checkers. I mean, they're playing just go do this regardless of what's going on. Go do this regardless. I might not even call this play if I was in a real game kind of thing. So that's what.
They're playing tic-tac-toe. That's what they're doing right now.
Yeah, they're playing tic-tac-toe. I like that, Andre. Good one. Let's go to one more. Actually, we might have a few more. But I'm not going to let Donald Duck keep me out here till midnight, I'll tell you that. I'm going to spread the love around. Chance Hines, I know the third preseason game, the starters don't start much, but we need to see a good drive. The first string needs time. What do you guys think? I think we already kind of touched on this as far as that third preseason game and what we hope that they do and what is typically done. So I appreciate everybody that's still watching with us live here. Appreciate my man Andre Casseday joining me as well.
Appreciate
Andre,
you.
anything that we haven't touched on that you want to touch on before we get out of here?
I want to highlight a player. His name is Amare Barno. I think he's been really making a name for himself in terms of just his shiftiness, right? You know, I don't know what this season could bring for him, and you know, we could say Sam Franklin's name as well. He had a couple of nice plays in this game, but you talk about, you know, the competition for, you know, who's got to be that other guy opposite of Brian Burns, right? And I feel like Amare Barno's name gets left out and forgotten about. You know, he's a guy 6'6", 240. He's got the size. He definitely has the speed. I mean, he runs a 4.34, 40-yard times. So, I mean, you know, that sets himself apart, right? So when you look at him and what the trajectory is with him, like, he's been making some plays in the preseason. I do feel like the potential is there for him to potentially go and be that secondary guy opposite of Burns. He's going to have to keep on going, man. I mean, he's making his plays. He's making his name. And his presence be felt in these past 2 weeks. We need to see more because that position group continues to be kind of a revolving door with Marquise Haynes in and out of the lineup due to injury. He tore Gross Matos. We haven't really seen much from him as of yet. DJ Johnson, a rookie, third-round pick. That's a guy that you know, is going to be in that mold too. So, you know, that's one of the questions that I have moving forward. Do we have somebody on this roster? Of course, with them bringing Justin Houston, that's only going to bolster that competition. But do we have a solidified guy opposite of Burns to put pressure on the passer? And that will be something that we'll see develop over time, and it's a competition that I look forward to seeing because I do think we have some potential guys that could fill that role so that Brian Burns doesn't have to be the only guy that's putting pressure on opposing quarterbacks.
Very well. I need to get you some music over your post-game last rap. That was pretty good. I can't talk as profoundly as that of Andre Casseday.
Hey, there's something that goes on near midnight, man. I just become very philosophical in these late night hours here on a Friday night.
Hey, let me give you guys a little. I'm gonna go full screen here, give you a little view of the field here. As it's only me and about, you know, a little bit of the field staff here as they're wiping off the paint.
Oh, they're already getting some Jets stuff up there already.
Oh wow, good. Well,
on the opposite end.
They're not getting it up. They actually just had it covered up. They were banners.
Oh,
and they just took the banners off. But
that sounds less impressive.
It's less impressive.
I was trying to give the groundskeepers some credit. Oh well.
All right. So here's my ending statements here. Oh, somebody asked a question there. 5 beta hitters. We'll come to that on another show. But I'm going to perhaps get the milk carton out for a guy. The milk carton is most notably where they put missing persons, people that you're looking for. And on my milk carton, I will have what some people said, like, hey, are you guys, and I'm not making fun of the reporter, but, you know, hey, you guys got like Deebo Samuels type plans for a certain kind of player, right? Deebo 2.0, okay. Mr. Man, he caught a 5-yard route and ran it all the way down the field. This could be one of the master plans of I was about to say Dom Capers, but I'm just thinking about the age and the number of rings that this staff has. They could be saying, we're going to keep this car covered up, right? We're not bringing it out until game day. Laviska Shenault is who I'm talking about. Through 2 preseason games, this is basketball. Well, I don't think in basketball they even do this, but this guy's not had anything. He's not done anything. Laviska Shenault has not done anything. From a running back perspective, he's had just a handful of carries. I might still have the stat up. Let me see if I can quickly find it before we get out of here. I might have to go through a few things here before I get to it. And do you see Laviska Shenault in the rushing?
I don't.
He is not there. Do you see Laviska Shenault in? Let me see if I can get to the receiving. You don't see him there either. Now, that's not the full list. I think they even have some negatives on there. Laviska Shenault has not done anything. So, I don't know, man. The speechlessness that you're seeing live is a speechlessness that I have truly. I don't know if they're trying to hold him back. I don't know if he's not performing well. I will say this. In reviewing some film from that first preseason game, I did feel like Laviska didn't run a route the way that he should have ran a route. Okay, so if you go back to that first preseason game, and I don't do too much technical talk because that's, I don't know, most of you guys just, maybe I'll do more if you like it. But nevertheless, it was a route ran where it was like a 10-yard stop kind of thing or come back toward the outside. And both receivers at the top and the bottom were running that same route. Bryce Young ended up missing Laviska on this route because I think when you look at the film that Laviska ran that route a few yards further down the field than he should have. And then when he came back, well, the ball's already, everything's thrown off. But if he had ran it as the guy up top ran it, and it's a timing thing, it could have had a much better chance for a reception. Okay? So anyway, Laviska Shenault, where are you? We love your possibilities, but anyway, we're late. We're wrapping up. If you're itching to say something, Andre, go ahead. Did you have something?
I was just saying we're putting Laviska Shenault on blast. We're putting him on notice. This is our call to action. This is our first call to action of our season. Laviska Shenault, we're looking for you, man. We need you.
Laviska Shenault, please report to the principal's office. Laviska Shenault to the principal's office. Hey, Mr. love the show. Appreciate you, Andre, for joining me. Appreciate everybody that has watched. Please, by all means, if you have watched to the end of this show, hit the subscribe button. Do yourself that favor. You've earned it. Subscribe to the show. Be a part of this channel as we grow. Andre and I will be working our tails off the entire season, every day, to get you all the content that you want, get you lots of information in our pregame shows. Once the regular season starts, provide you even more information to get you prepared for the game. We'll have interviews of the players during the regular season throughout the week. So whoever that may be that you want us to talk to, you'll be able to tune in and see that. That's all I'm going to say for now. Live from East Rutherford, New Jersey at MetLife Stadium for Andre Casseday. I'm Chris Jenkins for Charlotte Vibe. See you guys later.